Before we change topics and start looking at how we're going to solve inequalities, that's something that you've seen before, but I do want to take a little bit to just review this. So we've got an assignment here, and what's on here, not notes, it's just your assignment, and I've got a few that I'd like to go through. We want to be able to graph inequalities. We want to be able to write inequalities from graphs. We want to be really good at that, and we want to be aware of all the little details. So this first one right here, it says m is less than -4, and it's always best to read an inequality from the variable. You'll notice that some of these are written backwards. You shouldn't be afraid of those at all. So let's take a look at this one right here. M is less than -4. So here's what we're going to do. The most important number on this number line is -4. So I'm going to put a circle around -4. Okay? And then we want to know which direction we're going to shade. Now I've got a little hint right here. So sometimes it's helpful to say the word answers in place of the variable. So if we read this and we say m is less than -4, this would be the answers are less than -4. So if we look at this and say, I need to shade part of this number line, I need to shade where the answers are. The answers are less than -4. Well, less than -4 would be going this direction right here. So I'm going to put a little arrow on the end of that. I'm going to do a little shading right there. We've got an open circle, as we say right here. So that's the right graph for that inequality. Let's take a look at this one right here. And again, let's read this from the variable. So this is n is greater than or equal to -3. So on this one, the most important number on the number line is -3. So I'm going to circle that. Now, because this little extra equals bar underneath here, it's kind of like the bottom bar on an equal sign, that means it can actually equal -3. So we're going to close this in. So we're going to fill that in. We usually say that's a closed endpoint. This is an open endpoint on the first one that we did right here. And then again, n is greater than or equal to -3. Again, reading this backwards. And if we say the word answers right here, so the answers are greater than -3. So the greater than side of -3 would be to the right. So we're going to shade this direction right here and just do like that. Two little lines, an arrow on the end, and a little bit of diagonal shading will do it for you. Okay, let's slide down here and let's take a look at number 8. On this one it says write an inequality for each one of these graphs. So on this one right here, this is where that idea of these shaded parts, those are the answers, and we're going to use a variable to represent those. So we're going to put an X right there. That represents the answers. And then the most important number on the number line is -1, and these are on the smaller side. So we can put that in there and we're all set to go. We can circle that and we're done. If you wanted to get a little bit crazy and do something like this, -1 and X, remember the X's need to be smaller, so we could do something like that. Now either one of these would be totally okay, but this one is definitely easier when you're just transferring from a graph to an inequality. And again, notice that we don't have the equals to bar underneath this because this is an open endpoint. That would not be true on number 7. Let's slide down here and let's take a look at number 11. On number 11, we've got a decimal on this one. Now it's tough to graph decimals perfectly on a number line, but we can get fairly close here. So we're going to do 6.1. So I'm going to put a circle about right here, and then I'm going to label it. I'm going to put a 6.1 so nobody could doubt that we know what we're doing. Okay, we are going to fill that in. All right, and then we're going to read from the variable, and again I'm going to say answers. The answers, okay, now notice what we've got here. This is the small endpoint here, so these are smaller. The answers are smaller than 6.1. The answers, K's, are less than or equal to 6.1. Well, the less than side would be over here, so we're going to shade in this direction right here. So I'm going to draw those lines, put an arrow on the end, and just do a little bit of diagonal shading there, and we're all set to go. Okay, so that's how to do those with decimals. And then we'll take a look at this last one right here. We want to graph this one. You'll notice that this one has a number line that does not have a scale on it or any numbers or anything. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put 0 on here. It's always a good idea to put 0 on a number line. I'm going to put 4.3 over here. So I'm going to mark that as 4.3. And then I think it's always a good idea to put the numbers that are around that. So that would be 4, and then 5 might be about right here. And remember, we're going to circle where that 4.3 is, so I probably ought to just do this. And then is this an open circle or a closed circle? Open endpoint or closed endpoint? This is going to be open, and then the R's or the answers are less than 4.3. So we're going to shade this direction on those. So in general, it's a good idea to put 0 on there as a reference point. If nothing else, you've got to make sure that you put some integer numbers on either side so people can tell what you're talking about. So this one is labeled really well. There's no doubt that anybody taking a look at this, if this were a test or something like that, would know that we know exactly what we're doing. Okay, so good luck on the assignment.